Hey, dog girl.
Hey, dog boy, how's it going?
It's going really well. How are you today?
I could not be better.
Why is that? What you doing today? What's going on?
Today, we get to talk with two really awesome people, a couple, Bill and Amy Hillis,
A power
who
couple.
own Social Pet Hotel in North Carolina. They actually have two locations, one
Yeah.
in Charlotte,
Yeah.
one in Pineville, and they are, I'm just going to say it, doing things right.
Yeah, they're the face of the future of the dog industry. I feel like we've been here and
Yeah, we were the future of the industry 25 years ago.
Yeah, but they are doing everything right. They have the right whys. They have the right direction.
Just the way they treat their team, the way they treat their clients, how all of the good things that the dogs get. It is so impressive.
Mark my words, you're going to see this video and in 10 years you'll go, I remember when they were not, I don't want to say just starting out because they've been doing it for a little while.
Mhm.
But they're going to do great things. And
Yeah.
that's good news for all the dogs out there.
And that's why we want to tell you all about them.
And their owners.
Owners.
The owners, the dogs are getting
Oh
the
yeah,
best
even
of
the
the
owners
best,
are
and
benefiting.
the
Yeah,
owners
everybody.
is- yeah.
So if you're a dog lover, listen up.
Listen, stop what you're doing.
If you're a dog lover, then I don't know
Dog.
what kind of animal that is. But if you're a dog lover,
Yeah.
listen up.
Get some coffee, get some cookies,
All right, here
or
we
some
go.
donuts, and take a listen.
Today we have two very special guests. Amy and Bill Hillis are with us today.
Yay.
Hey
And-
guys, we're so happy
Hello.
here.
Thank you. They are from Social Pet Hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina. They actually have two locations, and I can't wait to find out all about it. So welcome, you guys.
Yeah.
First of
we're
all,
glad to be
great
here.
name. Great name for
Thank
a
you.
company. You know how like people, you see a lot of like easy names or they're playing off words, but like yours really stands out. Like I really like it. It says what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bill came up with the name actually.
Yeah, our goal was that, and we tell our people now, it's like, this is not Bill and Amy's doggy daycare. This is Social Pet. And it's what we do as a team that makes it what it is. And our hope is that at some point, a long time down the road, it's going to continue as Social Pet, and maybe we've made our mark, but it becomes what our culture drives it, not just us as individuals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's really,
That's a tough thing. That's kind of what we're very focused on now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we wanted to keep it open to, we only do dogs right now. We don't have plans to expand into cats or anything like that, but we did want to keep it open just in case. You never know what the future can hold.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how we started out too. And I kept saying, you sure you don't want to take cats? And I'm allergic to cats. So it's
Yeah.
not like I'm really emotionally
Maybe.
tied to it. But he was like,
Yes.
no, I've done that. I have
Yeah,
done
but
that
we like
before.
cats, but Bill's actually allergic. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, if the road closes, it's a whole thing. So I don't know how that would work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we're not, we'd have to have separate HVAC and all that.
Yes,
So
we
it's,
would.
at least in the city of Charlotte, there's so much demand that to take space away from dog care just wouldn't make business sense. And it's certainly, it would kind of hamper what we can deliver to the clients we already have. So
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
yeah, we just, and we get asked maybe every once in a while, but there's just not the same level of demand as for dog care.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Especially
And
with the pandemic. Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are like, where can I take my cat? Because he's so social. Most cats are like,
Well, and a cat's such an easy, like, hey neighbor, come over for
Yeah.
30 minutes, and don't even worry about the litter pan. Just make sure there's still food and water in the bowls. That's it for a cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so but there are people though that do it very successfully, and their enrichment for felines is a real thing, and it's really, it is very cool. And I don't see, that's another reason why Social Pet fit the bill for us, because who's to say we don't offer care for cats, for iguanas, for who knows what at some
Yeah.
point. I mean, I think it's something we have to be open to.
Yeah, you might grow it to where you have a superstar employee who's like that weird cat person, and they're like, how about I start my own location where
It's called Social Cat.
social pet cats only, or
Yeah, that's a really great point. It's, you'd almost, and that's when we've looked at it functionally, it almost, cats just have such different needs. Yes, they're a pet, but that's really where the similarities stop. So it's really a different type of facility for good cat care. So
It's literally a whole different animal.
Okay, so I have a question. I'm
Good way
always
to say that,
I'm always interested in how couples meet. Like, how did y'all?
Before the business and all that.
Yeah, how did you get to this?
Well, we're working on our first marriage, so we're yeah.
It's hard.
We met in Charleston, South Carolina, the summer before our senior year of college.
Mhm.
And it was just a total chance meeting. We were at a bar. The bar's name was Bodacious Burger. Yeah, I know.
It's on the third floor of this old building off the Market Street in Charleston, because Amy's friend is going to college at Charleston. I was at the Citadel.
Yeah, so
doing a military kind of career.
So I was spending a summer with my friend in Charleston, and we just went out one night, and he comes rolling up in the room and he says, "Hi, I'm Billy," and everybody, you know, just looks at him and everybody knows who he is. And I'm like, I don't know who this man is, whatever. And then
whatever.
Different.
Yeah, totally different. And then we talked a little bit that night, and then this is how he knew. Probably should have run away fast, but he asked me for my number and my last name. And I said, "How many Amy's do you know?" Like, I was offended that he asked for my last name, because, you know, that's just such a, apparently I thought that was very rude. and the actual explanation was, having a military background, you just do things that way, right? Everything's by last name. So it was relevant to me. I didn't think twice, and she's over here thinking, well, gosh, how many girls are in your black
How many Amy's are in your little directory there, Bill?
Not enough.
Billy?
Yeah, how many Amy's in that flip phone?
Yeah.
Right? So he,
One too many. Yeah.
One too many. So no, we actually had a long distance relationship until we were married, pretty much. So he was away for that summer in Washington State at officer training, and we kept in touch. He couldn't have his phone, so we actually wrote letters to each other.
Oh, that might have helped.
Back in the day in 2005.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so then we, you know, I am from Ohio, so I went back to school for my senior year, Ohio University, and he was at the Citadel, and we stayed in touch, and we kept talking, and you know,
she pinned me down that fall.
No, we joked. So I was getting a degree in education, in middle childhood education, and so I was going to be a teacher. And I knew I didn't want to stay in Ohio. And so it was probably October, November. I mean, we'd only been talking for a few months at that point. I mean, it was early. And I remember we're on the phone, and I said, "Look," I said, "I really do not want to have this conversation with you. I'm not trying to be that person, but logistically, I need to know, like, are we serious? I need to know where I should apply for jobs. I need to start doing that." And I was like, I don't want to have this conversation either. I just logistically need to know what we're doing. That's all I need.
This is not about emotion. This is just about logistics. And Bill, you're probably like, yeah, logistics. I can do that.
No, I was really not trying to be that girl, but I was like, I just need to know where to apply for jobs. And so he's originally from Tennessee, and we have always liked the Carolinas. And so we plan to move to Charlotte, and so that's where I applied for teaching.
I was in the South Carolina Guard, and so I had at least 4 years, I think, after graduating, and knew that I needed to stay close by. I didn't have to stay in the state, but I needed to be close by. And I wanted to get into commercial real estate, and Charlotte at the time, and still is, just a great place to be in any type of real estate because of how it's growing, and commercial especially. So that kind of drew us to that point. And then, so we graduated, I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky. We got engaged. And then in that same period of getting engaged, I got my orders to go to Afghanistan. So 1 year engagement turned to 2. After that armor school, I was a tanker in the Army, went into a cavalry unit and deployed, came back, and then we got married in 2008. So it was you know, so she spent 2 years in Charlotte without, like, kind of moved in and established without me.
Right.
Wow.
Essentially, yeah.
Wow. So, thank you for your service, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah.
That doesn't sound like it's a lot of fun. Not only being separated from, the,
Well,
the love of your
it's-
life, but
It's like anything else. It's unusual initially, and then it becomes normal. And then that's normal, and you get home, and I was home for 6 weeks. During that time, I'm trying to, as best I was in a operations role. I mean, we were doing convoy security every day, so I wasn't at a computer for my job, and
Mhm.
it was very intense. So there were days when I couldn't communicate, or there was days when I wasn't on a base that had internet, stuff like that. So, but I was able to maintain somewhat of a contact with the network I had developed in Charlotte, and I was fortunate to get a job and literally go from leading 4 gun trucks and 26 guys in Afghanistan in May to June. I start my job at what was then the Bissell Company's commercial real estate, and I had a phenomenal boss. I still keep in touch with him. That took a chance on me, frankly, but I was part of a team, and I was again an individual contributor trying to learn this career, and he should have fired me several times, and I've told him that. Like, I don't understand why.
That's why he didn't.
Yeah, you did your duty to your country by putting up with me for 5 years. So yeah, so if you fast forward a little bit, Amy worked on her master's degree, and then I went and got, and so she earned that.
I was a teacher for several years. I taught middle school, 6th grade language arts and 7th grade language arts, and
Mhm.
middle school, great area. And while I was doing that, I also got my master's degree in school counseling as well.
I saw that.
Working on all that while you were deployed and finished up when you got married.
Well, and what in hindsight, this all is just like a master plan, but it really wasn't the, when you go from college and you want, like, well, what school district do I want to work in, and what school do I want? You look for a good school.
Right.
So you end up in and I say good school, you end up in an area where people value education, and there's a lot of resources for education. And because of that, you also generally are in an area that has the economy strong, and there's a lot of, the community's strong. And so we didn't know it at the time. We'd start a pet care business in Charlotte, Pineville. But looking back, it couldn't have been a better base to start from. And because of Amy's background in education and talking to and working with human, parents, pet parents and parents of children, human children are very similar.
Very similar.
The emotional tie of a pet parent to their pet versus a human parent to their human, I would argue, is stronger. I mean, we
especially if that human doesn't have human babies.
Yes, and I think that, and so that's what really drives us. So there's I had a buddy when I was in Afghanistan who was also deployed in Iraq, because I went to military school. My next door neighbor at school, both of them were Army guys as well, and they both deployed to a different area. And our buddy Russ was shot by a sniper on a rooftop while he was there. This would have been the spring, late winter of 2008. And just not probably mid-tour for him. I was a couple months from coming home, and we had all stayed, we were really close. And so Russ ended up, he survived it. He's 100% disability. He has a condition called aphasia. So he's means stroke victims, just generally somebody that has a stroke, typically an older person, they might get this. And it's when parts of your brain get shut down for a period of time, and he can't read, speak, or write, and his right side is paralyzed. So he's my age. He's 37, 38. And he graduated in 06 when I did. And he was on, I don't know if y'all remember Newt Gingrich back in the 90s, the Speaker of the House. So he was invited, he graduated early, was invited to be on Newt Gingrich's, not his campaign, but his kind of think tank at the time, working at the House. And then, of course, to pay for school, like the rest of us, he was in the National Guard, and he had transferred to the DC National Guard and was called up for deployment at around the same time I was. So this was before the surge that Obama did. This was kind of at the end of the George Bush era. So it was a pivotal time, and we went to school we matriculated, our senior year was 2001 to 2002, and coming from, you know, working class Southern family, I mean, it was, you know, there's not an obligation, but it's very much a, you know, yeah, it's our duty. Yeah. And so, and he
Right.
came from a similar environment in New Jersey. So we all had this very close tie.
Yeah.
The point of this story is what drives us every day. You know, everybody has a why, we believe.
Yeah.
And so the
Mhm.
reason why, you know, we're not in this for the money, I'll tell you that.
What?
You know, we're yeah, right. Yeah, I could have done, you know, commercial real estate's pretty lucrative depending on where you're,
Yeah.
but at the
Mhm.
end of the day, we weren't making the impact in our day jobs that we wanted to make. And so Russ got a dog named Penny about 3 or 4 years after it was very clear he was going to be in this state forever.
Mhm.
You know, Russ pays for our freedom every day, and it's very humbling. And so I came back physically unscathed, and so I feel very strong obligation every day to do everything, you know, to be everything I can be on behalf of, you know, my buddies that can't do that. You know, he can't do. And so Penny gives Russ a reason to be. She gives Russ a reason to sometimes to get up, to a purpose, and
Mhm.
where a lot of us can find that purpose in what we do for a living or in our families, or I mean, something that would seem maybe basic to a lot of people. He really can't have a family. I mean, so it's, you know, it's not that he couldn't, but it's, you know, it's tough. And his, so I don't want to share more than Russ would be comfortable, which I already passed that point when I said his name, frankly.
Sorry,
but,
Russ.
Very humble guy. I think that that keeps us going, and that's, we're not done with this. We have 2 locations. We are not backed by private equity or venture capital, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just gives us a level of freedom and control over how we do things. We can invest in programs like enrichment before they're a fad and before people really understand them, and work on educating clients and you know, pay our staff well, and benefits, and you know, do things in a way that we can put our stamp on. And my hope is we prove, you know, before we would get to the point of selling, which would be decades off, but we would prove to the next owner, hey, you can do this and you can do it right. You can do it in a way that adds value at a higher level, not just on a spreadsheet. That's what we're doing.
And it's about adding value, you know, not just to the dogs and to their families. You know, we take our mission very seriously, and it really is behind every major decision we make. And our mission is that we exist to enrich the lives of the dogs and the relationships they share with those who love them. And we take that seriously. So when we're looking at adding a new service line or adjusting our programs or our lodging packages, or you know, anything like that, that's what we ask ourselves is, does this align with our mission? And that's crystal clear pretty quickly. I mean, if the answer is no, what's the point in doing that? And so, you know, we have that at the heart of everything we do. But then also, it's not just about enriching them, but about providing an enriching life and a fulfilling career for our team members too. Because there's so many people who they really do just work to live, and they don't like their jobs. And I just think that would be it's just so terrible. Like, you spend so much time at your job every day. There's so many people who are burned out, and there's so many people who've sort of been reawakened with COVID. And, you know, we have this expression, the Great Resignation, which we've all heard about and read about, and there's some truth to that. But, you know, for us, what we see is it's more of I've heard this term, the Great Reprioritization. People are getting more clarity around what they want in their lives. And it's not just about working, you know, 10, 12 hours a day and being too tired to go home and enjoy their families and their friends. You know, we really want to strive to provide people with the balance that we all want and we all deserve. And it's not easy, and it may not feel balanced every day, but you know, over the long term, we want to be able to provide a place where people can have a fulfilling career with us, where they can make a living, a comfortable living, you know, they're not going to be extremely wealthy necessarily, but they can make a living in pet care and have that balance in their personal and their professional lives that we all want. So
yeah, I think that's so important. It's so important. And back when we started 25, 26 years ago, I mean, when we told people what we were doing, they were like, what else do you do? Like, that's not a job,
Yeah.
you know? And over the years, people are just starting to realize that even our own employees that, you know, this isn't just a job. You can have a career in pet
Yeah.
care. And I think, you know, moving forward, a lot of them will continue to stay in pet care. A lot of our former employees have started their own businesses in pet care,
Yeah, like
training facilities, pet sitters, pet care facilities, all kinds.
dog walkers, consultants, like
Yeah,
everything.
it's been really impressive to see them like start here at the bottom of the ladder, move their way up, and then go lateral and do their own thing. It's been really
I'd like to see
lovely.
a college program based around it, because like when I started, it was like, I want to help dogs help people. I mean, that was like my epiphany moment was, you know, dogs have always been like my first memory of joy and fun and play. Like first memory period was with a dog. And I think a lot of people have these relationships with their dogs and how much they give to you. And then they come and work at a pet place and they don't really see it as a career. And I really think like there needs to be some kind of college program or something that doesn't just say, oh, do you love pets? You should open a dog place. Like there's like the business of being in business is really hard.
That's exactly right. We are actually seeing that to a small degree. North Carolina State, our Pineville manager, who is about to move into our director of ops role, she is 23, and I'm telling you, this young woman is smart and driven and just focused. And she realized she went into animal sciences, which is not that's kind of the program you see, to your point, and most, it's like a pre-veterinary degree type of program. Well, they had started to differentiate and kind of draw a line and say, well, there's the pet care side of it, and then there's the pet healthcare side of it. So it is different. It's just if you think of the human side, there's hospitality. That's what we do. We're canine hospitality.
Yes.
We are not the hospital or the doctor's office. And I think clients are saying that too with their dollars. They're saying, hey, would you take your human child? Would you call your doctor and say, hey, you got room today? My daycare is booked up. Oh, look, hospital. I know COVID's kind of tough right now, but you got an extra bed for us? My kids. It's like, why are we doing that with our dogs? Like, why are we, and so people are starting to see like, hey, this is, if you do it right, if you do it well, if you're looking at the dogs as individuals, if you're treating it like human hospitality for dogs, you got a whole different line of services, and you have a whole different skill set needed to deliver that. And so our director that I'm talking about, her name's Rachel, and she came from this NC State program, and I'm talking impressive. And she's been with us. She was hired on during the pandemic, and she's just celebrated her year back in August. And she has moved mountains with our Pineville location to the extent that we're excited for her to spread her wings over both. And
nice.
Yeah.
Wow,
so,
23.
Yeah, that's right. Only 23.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
We think about age is not for us. Age is certainly a data point, but it doesn't say anything about your level of leadership skill, your who you are as a person, your character. We've had people in their 50s and they're great, and we've had people in their 50s that couldn't even show up on time. We've had people in their 20s that are fantastic, and we've had them that so the whole idea like, well, the kids these days or whatever, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's individuals. How do we take individual stance on so many things, but then we bulk people together when it comes to generations?
Right.
Exactly right. I mean, with Social Pet and with a lot of facilities now placing this emphasis on enrichment and really customizing and individualizing the experience for the dogs, of course we're going to try to do that for our team members too. So we feel an obligation to show them the career path with whatever their strengths and interests might be, whether it is the human client side or the canine client side, or you know, grooming or enrichment or training or customer service. There's so many different options now. And as we grow, that's one of our motivators for growing, is to be able to provide these career paths for people who are looking to make a career in pet care. So that's what really keeps us going.
Yeah, we've created positions for people that
just to give them some extra growth.
Let them go somewhere and do something that they love. It. We have one lady that she's very earthy, very holistic, very nurturing, and she makes all of our like organic treats, like, you know, or add-on packages, things that we
does
make
a lot of the creative work, but she also like understands the back end of the database and knows all the clients by name and where they work and who they're married to. And like she's just this wealth of knowledge, but then there's this whole creative side that loves to like cook and bake and make little, you know, all these custom treats.
And gardening. She's like, you know, she's like, can I do stuff out in front? And so she planted all these succulents,
and we're just like, go do that.
I was like, yes, go. Do you want me to punch out? I was like, hell no. Like, you're
she's
working.
Fantastic.
Value for both of you. I mean, she gets this great sense of fulfillment by being able to contribute and do what she loves and make a difference. And then your business benefits as well, and the dogs and the people. I mean, what a great thing. And if we just realize we need to communicate with each other and just really talk to each other and ask, you know, just treat each other as individuals. Everybody's got talents like that. And people have strengths that we don't have. I mean, we make a point to surround ourselves with people who are better at things than we are. And that's how we can grow and be better together.
Yeah. I was looking at y'all's resumes, and like the first thing that popped out was it didn't really matter what you guys went into. Like just looking at your separate resumes and then putting them together, you guys were going to be successful with like
a powerhouse, regardless.
Like whatever you did.
We're too stupid to quit.
Yeah, we are.
Not to.
At this point, I know, like we're too far in it. We can't keep it.
Well, I was curious. They say that opposites attract. For us, like we have totally different jobs in the company. I was wondering what y'all's like differences were, or where you fill in.
Yeah, we definitely have different jobs. So my title is the Chief Strategy Officer. And so I'm in charge of working and building out the strategy, looking years in advance, planning with Bill, and making sure that we're aligned with our growth plan. And then ensuring that our operations, our sales, and our marketing are all aligned with that strategic growth plan. So
that functionally means that our director, our managers, they all report up through Amy first.
So, I mean, it didn't start off that way where we had, you know, different lanes that we stayed in, you know, we've grown it to a point where we can do that now. At first, we kind of
did
blend everything together.
Yeah, well, when you're
so tough.
Yeah, the business is, there's no logic to starting a business from nothing. It's illogical.
No. What's that like?
The risk and none of it makes, if it made sense, it's why so few people do it and why so few people should do it.
Right.
Well, in your role as the CEO.
Right. So I think what this does, and we work with a coach, Brenda Anderson, and she's phenomenal. I met Brenda through a program called Emerging Leaders, which is across the US that the Small Business Association puts on. And it's really to take your business from draw your baseline and develop a 3-year growth plan. And I'm proud to say that we've achieved everything we hope to achieve. You know, you throw COVID in there, though, it does delay what we, our goal, our end state was a 3rd location. But the flip side of that is we're going to be able to purchase our Pineville facility to own it outright. And that wasn't necessarily part of the plan. So it's kind of you give and take, and the programs out there through the SBA right now with the CARES Act allow for some things like that to happen where somebody with our means can do that. Whereas otherwise we would have to pull in a partner or an equity type of backing to make it happen. So Brenda, we approached Brenda last year in the summer, kind of when the peak of the pandemic and then the George Floyd stuff that was happening. And it was just really a critical moment where it's like, okay, I don't know if I'm not equipped to navigate, to lead the company through this. It's up to me to be humble enough to say, hey, I want to make sure that I've got somebody in our corner that can help ensure that we're making the best decisions we can make. And so Brenda, she's got 30 plus years experience, came up through the banking world, and we are one of the smaller institutions where she consults the executives. I mean, some of her bigger clients are $20-30 million a year organizations. But her and I had really developed a good relationship through that Emerging Leaders program that she led for our cohort, and she agreed to work with us, and we're very grateful. And she also, at the time of the pandemic, she made it, very reasonable for us to come on board and to kind of integrate. And because of her and our working with her, it kind of helped us look at all this again. It became clear, like, okay, Bill, yes, you're the right person to lead the organization as a whole, but how does Amy best complement me within the organization? And how do we relieve Amy of so many day-to-day responsibilities so she can actually be a partner with me versus, to make it a more, and so what has happened, the director of ops role came about, and it was Amy and Brenda really kind of spearheading that, with me being drug along for a little bit. I can't take any credit, but that one decision of many was really critical to where we're at now.
It's so important to have like someone that you can look to in times of crisis like that, that can help lead you through that dark valley. Because I mean, I remember when COVID hit here, I mean, we were about to celebrate our 25th year in business. We were like on top of the world.
We had t-shirts coming. We had events.
We had like a marketing plan for our anniversary to celebrate every month. And
banners.
Then COVID hit. And within a week, I was like, we're going to have to start laying people off. Like, we can't do this. Even though we had money in savings, I just didn't think it was sustainable.
No, it's one thing to have a cushion, and we had a cushion, but it's another thing to have your revenue cut by 76%.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Which is what happened. Yeah.
I mean, there's a point where we can't even cover rent. I mean, there was that point. So it's like it was dire. I think though, coming out of it, we're better for having gone through the pandemic as a company.
Us too.
We're better for it. And there are things that we have in place now because of it. There are things that we aren't doing now because of it. And ultimately we're stronger. And I dare say we're prepared for the next wave, because there will not be a next, I don't want to jinx us in that, but
don't jinx yourself, Bill.
Right. But there is we do have to have contingencies. And frankly, one thing we realize is we did not have enough cash set aside.
Right.
And it was really just humbling. I mean, just like, you think I really thought like, hey, we really, we're starting to be a little proud of ourselves. And then, and then we're like, oh, gosh,
right.
Pride comes before the fall.
Well, that's why I was so glad to have the dog gurus helping at that time, because once we started seeing them online all the time on Facebook, and, I was like, we need to just hook into this and figure out what they're saying, because they were so helpful at that time.
We were also working with a coach as well. I think a lot of younger business owners don't realize the value, or even like top people in top professions, they have somebody that coaches them. And it's so important.
We require, so we have our director of ops, Blake, who is actually, he's transitioning out of the role, and Rachel's going to be transitioning in December. And we made it a mandatory. It's like part of our culture is, if you're not dedicated to your own continuing ed and your own, you're building yourself and growing yourself, and also humble enough to realize you do not have all the answers all the time. You don't.
So true.
You are not listening and working with your team and open to the idea that your greatest thought today may not be as good as somebody else's. it's
Right.
not a good fit. It doesn't mean maybe you can go be a brain surgeon, where but you're not going to fit the social pet way, because we're convinced that we are stronger because of the collective. And
Right.
what Brenda does, and we also have several different people that help us. Lori Davis of Paramount Success
Oh,
Group.
she's fantastic. Yeah.
She's a huge, she was kind of our first paid consultant that came on in 2017.
Mhm.
And kind of, but she focuses on sales and marketing, and we wanted somebody, and Lori does some executive coaching with us, but we wanted, that's what they do. And so that's where Brenda came in, and actually also works with Lori as in to help us in our decision processes. So it's such a, we are not naive enough to think that we wouldn't be the two people that hold our business back because of our lack of knowledge or understanding. We don't know what we don't know. And part of what these people do is help us realize things that otherwise were right there and we just couldn't see it.
They challenge us, they keep us thinking, and they just, they keep it.
What's next? What's next?
Yeah, they're always looking forward.
And I think that's something that a lot of non-entrepreneurs take for granted, is how much personal growth is involved in running your own business. Like you don't just turn the lights on and start taking money. Like in order for your business to grow, you have to grow as a person.
Yeah.
And that's not something you can just like put on hold and save for a rainy day. Like you have to constantly grow, even when you think things are great. Life is just a series of curveballs, and it's all about how you handle those and what you do with them versus, just like, oh yeah, I'm a business owner, everything's peachy all the time.
We're so successful.
We're constantly looking for ways to grow. And, Bill did his emerging leader program, and I went back to Queen's University and got my certificate in leadership and change.
I love that.
I'm involved with PAC, and I got my PAC certification. During the pandemic, I'm a certified professional operator. I'm only one of two in the state of North Carolina.
Yeah, tell us more about PAC when you can, because I really want people who are listening to know more about it.
You use show your PAC shirt. There we go.
There it is.
Yeah, we're testing this.
We're testing in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Awesome.
I saw that. I saw your guys' name on the roster. The PAC it's a professional animal care certification council, and we're a third-party independent certification for the pet care industry. We're the only one. And so what we tell people is, if you know what you're doing and you're good at it, then you should prove it. And you should use this as an opportunity to differentiate yourselves from all of the other competition. And that's really how it started for me. In the Charlotte area, there's over 100 different competitors. There's a lot. And those are only the ones who are legally licensed to operate, including daycares, veterinarians, licensed in-home boarding. There's over 100 competitors in our county and the surrounding area. And so we differentiated ourselves with enrichment, but there's what else is out there. At some point enrichment's going to catch on, and that's great. We want it. We would hope that for every facility, but what else can we do? And so I earned my PAC certification, and I tested for that in 2020. And the great thing about PAC is, once you become certified, you become united with this really amazing group of like-minded professionals who value certification. They value education, both for themselves and for the others in their business. So it linked up with this really fantastic network of very smart, dedicated people who are always looking to grow and improve. So you have access to education from different providers. PAC doesn't provide the education, we're just the tester, but we connect people with, valuable educational resources that people can use to grow themselves and their teams. And then you have, the networking piece of it too, where if you want to bounce ideas off of each other, or, talk to other people who value the same things that you do, then you have that. But the PAC certification is something that's really helped set us apart too, and continue to push me to grow as a business operator with, I've got this opportunity for myself. So now how can I share it with others? So we have plans next year to get several more people in our facility certified, and there's different levels too, which is great. So
We're requiring it of our leadership.
we are requiring it of our leadership within 1 year
Awesome.
of employment. Yeah. So while I'm certified at the operator level, there's 2 other levels with provider and manager.
Yeah.
So each person can test based on, whatever their skill set and their career path is. So it's a great opportunity for people.
Yeah, I think after the 2008 crash or the bubble, the markets bursting, I think a lot of investors saw that, hey, the pet industry was pretty resilient. So let's get into that. And so like we've had that in Austin where a lot of places have just come in with
Bought a franchise or
just big money behind it. And they drop these $2 million facilities or huge facilities. And their number one goal is let's make some money. And their why is let's make some money.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know what they're doing.
And
we see that in Charlotte too. Like you name it, we have every big chain in the area, multiple locations of each chain. And I think that's one thing that we can provide because we're not just driven by that bottom line and that number. And that's one of the, pieces of the code of ethics of PAC is you put the needs of the animal above every other consideration in your business, including that dollar. And that's how we're different as a small business compared to some of these larger companies. And I mean, there's definitely a need. Of course, you need to make a profit. And we're very open with our team about that too, is, we charge what we charge because we want to make a profit. We need
sustainability.
We need to make a profit to continue our mission. But with that, this is what we're then going to give back to you. And this is how you benefit from that as well. You get benefits, you get competitive pay, you get access to education reimbursement, certification opportunities. So that's something that we feel we can provide.
I think it's important too, to note, like, for example, what Amy just shared. I mean, Howard Schultz said that of Starbucks. He's like, you can't, to carry out our mission, we have to be profitable. And so there's nothing that we're doing at Social Pet that is novel, if you will. What we're doing is this is not to draw any comparison, but take Amazon for example. I mean, eBay started that movement, right? Amazon just took it and tweaked it and said, hey, how can we expand on this? And then we're going to privatize some of these great things that we're offering and sell our private label. I mean, we're essentially going to make a Walmart online, and then lo and behold, Walmart then follows suit because it's where things are going. And so we see pet care, our job is to not be, here's another one, we want to be at the leading edge, but not the bleeding edge, because everything we do has to be profitable. We can't just simply pilot something for months on end or run a campaign that's unprofitable for months on end. But what that does is it makes us very much aware of the value we're driving our clients every day. And so that's one promise we can make people is like, look, we can't afford not to deliver a high level of service to you in a transparent way where you want to come back. Like we can't afford not to. And so because of that, you're getting our absolute best every single day. And the value proposition, we think that's part of the slight edge we have as a small company like you guys, is we're not tied into reporting our quarterly or monthly results to somebody else who gets to, whip out their pen and make a bunch of red marks on it. And we're not bonused in that way. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. But it's very hard competing in many ways with some of these folks. If a pet parent is lesser educated, and especially a new pet parent, they don't know what they don't know. They see a beautiful new facility and rates that are, maybe a third less than ours at times because they're running these promotions. It's like, why wouldn't you try that?
Right.
During COVID, we heard, well, this place down the street's doing 50% off for everybody.
You should go check them out.
And I said, I'm really sorry. We're a small business. We can't do that. But if you have that opportunity, you're welcome to take it.
If you're just shopping with your wallet, then go check it out, and then you'll realize the difference between big corporate and small business, and you'll be back.
I've encouraged every person that's come for a tour. I was like, please go look at other places. Like, I don't want this to be your only stop. Go look and see who's taking care of your dogs and ask these questions and see how they answer.
That's that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's part of that's having confidence in what you're delivering, because if your business, if you're strong enough and your people are strong enough in what they're doing, it's a self-selection process. We're not trying to sell anybody on anything. We want to share all the opportunity out there, and then they make a decision for themselves. And that also has the added effect of people, being a little more responsible for the decisions they're making for their dogs, and maybe slightly less likely to come look at us in a negative light if something doesn't go perfectly. I mean, so it's about building trust in the relationship. And by saying what you just said, as a pet parent, I feel like, you know what, I'm starting to trust these guys, because they're like, hey, go check out another place as well. We want you, but go see what's out there for your dog's
There's
sake.
enough dogs for all of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's get,
Exactly.
abundance, not scarcity.
Right.
I feel like what you guys are doing will become the norm and is becoming the norm. And I predict that like the PetSmarts of the world, or the stay and plays, or not stay and play.
Yeah.
I don't want to name, but they're going to come to you and say, hey, maybe we don't want to just worry about the money. You've done this, and your employees are sticking around, and they have lives, and they're
Getting
talking about
certified.
it, and all these great things are happening, and you're making money. They're like, how are you doing that? Like,
Right.
That's one of the things that impressed me the most when I first met you two, is how quickly you became successful in such a short period of time. And the fact that you're like, it took us decades to get to a place where we're like working from home and not having to be there every day. And to see you guys running 2 facilities and working from home and like raising your son. And it was just so impressive. I was like, these guys are where we were 20 years ago, but they're 20 years ahead of us.
She kept talking about, she's like, they're the new face. Like they're the,
I said, they're the face of the industry. They're the future face of the industry.
Generous.
I know. Many more resources out there though now than there were even 7 years ago when we started.
The industry continues to evolve rapidly.
That's true.
Yeah, there was no daycare. There was no,
When we started, there was no daycare in Texas.
there was
period.
no dog to dog play. I mean, everybody told us you can't do that.
Yeah,
like,
you can't do that. Yeah.
And I was
They said,
like,
you're going to get dogs killed.
I'm doing it in my backyard. I've got 8 dogs right now that are having a great time.
Yeah. And, in the early days, we did have really large play groups and, 15, 20 dogs. And we're on 15 acres. So we're really spread out. So we can't have like a lifeguard in every single play area. And so we've always done it differently than I would coach other facilities to do it.
Yeah.
But now, because our staff is so caring and detail oriented, they're like, oh no, play groups should be like 3 or
7.
5 at the most, like 2 or 3, or maybe just the 1, we're doing a lot of enrichment add-ons. We're doing solo hikes and, things like that.
Splash hikes, explorer hikes.
Yeah. A lot of
Cool.
things like that. But the direction that the industry is moving is into packages. So you don't have to a la carte everything. You can just say, I want this package and it comes with all these things. And I think that's going to really simplify things for the consumer and make it just one less stressful thing that they have to worry about. They don't have to decide how many little things they need.
I think the trick is going to be, we're sort of in the market for a new car. We don't know what kind of car yet. I don't know the last time that you guys bought a car.
Yesterday.
Okay.
Oh, congratulations.
But
Well,
so what did,
maybe, right? No kidding. Yeah, I picked it up yesterday.
What
Well-
did you get? What kind of car did you get?
Pick that up, can you?
no, well, like, so what I've noticed is like, we're looking at getting an RV too. And if you have an RV, like there's not a lot of cars that you can flat tow except for a Jeep. And so I started looking at Jeeps,
Yeah.
and there are like 12 or 13, 14 trim levels for a Jeep.
Oh,
And it's confusing as hell. And then if
Yeah.
you look at like Toyota or Honda, they usually have 3 trim levels, and you can add here and there. Or if you look at Tesla, like Tesla is just like, here's the Tesla.
You get one.
Do you want it to self-drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, FCA Chrysler, well, and consequently, the vehicle I just bought is a heavy duty Ram.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I had a very similar, and I'm coming out of a Ford F-150, and not to get on a car tangent, but it is really challenging. And with the chip crisis, it's relevant how the auto manufacturers are having to flex to still have an inventory available to the extent that they can, but also take into consideration you don't have these supplies and materials that you needed on demand like you did before. And so it's very similar to what we experience in pet care, where it's like we have such a demand for our services right now.
Right.
I mean, on a day, we're at both locations. We're combined. I mean, we're pushing 175 to 200 dogs a day on average.
Yeah.
That's wild for this time of year. I mean, historically speaking, before the pandemic, this would be sort of a slower period.
Right. That's true.
So we're kind of priming for Thanksgiving. Well, we're seeing Thanksgiving numbers almost stabilize. And so what does that mean? It's challenging because it's like we are limited based on the facility and our team
Staff.
ability to carry out the services. And so it's just not black and white, and it's such a dynamic situation. And
we stopped taking new customers
In May, and we still haven't.
and we have like 500 people on a waiting list.
wow.
It's
That's
just,
incredible.
yeah, we're hoping that by, January, things will slow down enough that we can, crack the door a little.
Yeah.
But it's, our staff got to a point where they were like, can we just stop taking names? Like, it just feels insulting at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that for a while too. We stopped with our daycare assessments because we could accommodate the assessment, but then we would be booked for, the next month. So
They were like, can I get in? You're like, nope.
Yeah, people, I think, don't understand that this is an industry-wide problem. It's just one of many things that the pandemic has, rippled out.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and
it's-
just like you were saying, like the auto manufacturer example, it's like you've got different manufacturers doing different things to essentially flex and continue to be relevant right now. And I think that is a similarity with our industry, is that we're having to do something, although we're very service oriented, we're not providing a product.
Right. But still.
Yeah.
Like with the truck, I'm looking at trucks too. I'm like, well, do I want the 250 or the 350? Do I want diesel or not diesel? Do I need a sunroof? I don't need a sunroof.
You and I are going to have a separate call.
Okay.
I can talk about now. Yeah.
I was like, my brother-in-law has the ventilated seats. I think I want that because that was really nice.
Yeah, that wasn't an option when we bought our
I
last car.
also realized I am spoiled rotten in the last couple of years with my Ford, and yeah, there's little things now that I swear to God are, and I just tell Amy, I'm like, we kind of agree on this, like cars are my thing, and while we don't want to make a dumb financial decision, it's kind of like you work your butt off, and we survive this thing. And by God, I want to have my butt cool.
Right. And I want to know if there's somebody in my blind spot.
Yeah.
That's right. I want the little mirror to be power so I don't have to go reach out and move it.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
like the old days.
There's so many, to your point though, there's so many options, and it's our job to educate clients, new clients and current clients, if their situations change, about these, what are your goals for your dog, and this is the best option for you. These are our options, and this is the one that we recommend. So we do spend a lot of time on that education process because we want the client to see the value, and we want the dog to get the most out of what we have to offer. So
Absolutely. Let's talk. Go ahead.
that peace of mind is just so important for us.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. I want to have you guys be a vessel to help educate our listeners and viewers a little bit more about what it means to have enrichment in your lodging and your daycare, because that's something that
Some people don't know
some
what
people are
that
doing
means.
enrichment daycare, and some people are like, what's enrichment? And some people, that's all they do. Some facilities, that's all they do. But it is a growing trend, and it's definitely something that will be the future of all pet care, I think, moving forward. But help everybody understand a little bit more about what enrichment is and how it works at your facilities.
Yeah, so enrichment is really just customizing the experience to what the dog needs. So when a dog comes for the first day, they go through the daycare assessment process, and that process takes pretty much all day.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a throw them in the group for 20 minutes, and if nobody fights, then they pass.
Yeah,
You
they're
know, that's
good.
not,
Nationwide.
How it used to be.
to be
I mean,
honest, yes,
simply,
that is how we started. That is how we started. You know, you go into the larger group, and it was well monitored, but you know, you go in and they all crowd the fence, and they're all like, you know, the dog comes in, like, let me go, and
Tail
yeah.
tucked.
So, you know, we realized that's not best practice. We would see dogs getting stressed out or just not engaging in group. And before we really knew what enrichment was and how valuable it could be, we had a lot of these dogs who were one-on-one, and we just felt like something's not right with this. Like,
well,
we can't just have one large group and then these one-off dogs by themselves. Like, they're not better off by being at Social Pet with that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we actually went and we heard Robin and Susan at one of the conferences talk about enrichment for the first time. And that's when they really introduced this concept to us. And we were like, okay, like, this is it. This is what we need to be doing.
Yeah, well, the pain point we felt that really brought it to a head with our clients is we would have a client that had 2 dogs, and one dog would be fine, and the other dog would not be able to be in any type of group. And that also meant, okay, well, we're going to have that dog will be breaks only, or I forget the term we used at that time, but you know, we'll bring them out for potty breaks, and otherwise they're going to spend most of their day in their accommodation, which is perfectly humane and safe. But is the dog really having a good or better time than they would have at home? Probably not. And then furthermore, sometimes you get a client who has 2 dogs, and the one dog is maybe aggressive toward other dogs. And at that time, we couldn't even care for them. So you have this fantastic human being that wants the best for their dogs, and we're literally looking at them in the eyes and saying, you know what, I can care for Fluffy, but not Susie. It's like, wait, how is that? We didn't know the answer, but we knew that wasn't going to be our end state.
Yeah.
This is this is not good enough to not have an option for this entire family.
Right.
Yeah. And so our mantra now is very much, there's really not a dog we can't care for, but there are some human clients we can't care for.
Oh, yes, there are.
Yes, there are.
We can care for all the dogs. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be so easy if it was just dogs.
Yeah. we have a few different options for our enrichment programs. We have our one-on-one, where there's a dog who's just playing with a staff member, and this would be for dogs who just don't enjoy playing with other dogs, which is perfectly fine. And so we spend a lot of time, again, educating parents on, this is what your dog likes and this is what your dog needs. And we have that option. We've got our small group option, where they can be introduced to other friends that they have. And so you'll have a small group of dogs. And, you know, a lot of people will ask, well, how big are your groups? Well, it depends on the dog. It depends on the dogs who are there that day. It depends on how they're feeling that day. And so, you know, Bart, you mentioned this earlier, but sometimes it may be a group of 2, maybe a group of 3, maybe a group of 7. And
what's the weather like today?
Exactly. What's the weather like? Is it really hot? Is it cold? Is it, you know, what's going on? And so it really just depends on the dogs who are there that day and how they're feeling that day. And so we invest a lot of time and resources into training our enrichment specialists so they can identify that body language and read that and understand what the dogs are feeling that day to know how to build those groups together. And then within those groups, based on what those dogs like to do, or with a one-on-one dog as well, that's where we start to build in these activities. So it could be playing with toys, it could be puzzle time, it could be, if it's a one-on-one dog, you know, maybe a frozen Kong, it could be fetch. We do some agility work, fit paws, things like that. So there's just so many different activities that you can do. And we've really just found that the dogs, the dogs who would just be in group and either hide behind the trash can the whole time, or just kind of roam around or lay down, they're a lot more engaged, and it's just a lot healthier balance of that play and rest. So instead of, you know, going all day long and playing all day long, which is what we used to do, you know, now it's more of what you know, we think about what we need as people. You know, if you are in a meeting all day long or back-to-back meetings all day long, it's exhausting. And you go
It
home and you're
sucks.
tired. Yeah, you go home and you're tired, but you don't feel good. You know, it's been a
Right.
stressful day and you're not happy. And we tell people, and I think it was Robin also who said this, we're big fans of the Dog Gurus, but
Yes.
you know, this exhaustion is not the measure of success for daycare. Behavior,
true.
emotional health is.
Mhm.
And that's what we really tell our clients too. So when we have
Yeah.
a dog who, you know, right now we've transitioned to only enrichment. So we are
Great.
only enrichment now.
As of
Our-
October 1.
Yeah, so we have some current clients who still participate in that large group play, and we've allowed that to continue because their dogs are doing great there. But
Mhm.
before we were only doing enrichment, you know, we would have a client who would watch their dog don't go into group, and they'd be like, well, she's not like excited. Like, why isn't my dog excited to go into that group? And I would say, well, when you walk into a party, do you go, hey, I'm here? Like, you don't do
She does.
I do.
I
Yeah.
don't.
you know, not everybody walks there and it's just like, hey, party's here.
Party. I
Right.
love this song. Yeah, I'm like, when are we leaving?
Yeah,
What time do we leave?
He's like, I'll be in the corner. And I'm like, hi, 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 hi.
Well, when I give the signal, it's time to go. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, we tell people like dogs are the same way. Like some enjoy a larger group, some enjoy a smaller group, some enjoy one-on-one, and most
Yeah.
dogs prefer a smaller group, and that's okay. So we've had to spend a lot of time educating clients to understand what the goal is. It's not exhaustion. It's that your dog gets that healthy activity mentally and physically. So
Yeah.
we build in those activities to appeal to both sides of that.
I think it's
That's
important
wonderful.
to draw a distinction though. I mean, there is, I think in the pet care world, especially some folks super involved in the industry, there's for pet parents, it's easy to look at something in black and white. We are
Mhm.
not sitting here saying that there aren't a large number of dogs that do well in a larger group. They do exist. There are, and I think the Dog Guru's stat was 40%, right?
Yeah.
So we are actively, what we're saying as a business though, is it's for that 40% of dogs, you have so many other options in our market that you would kind of be crazy not to go consider one of those, because we have made it our passion and our mission to serve the other 60%. And it's not it's just simply because for us to operate at our most efficient, so we can make it as affordable as possible, we have to be focused on the type of care we're providing. And it just didn't make sense anymore to host a large group environment for dogs that play well with any other dog when so many of our competitors do that, and they do it very well.
Yeah.
We're going to focus on doing what we do well and make it very clear to our clients. And at the same time, we're going to grandfather in those dogs who have been coming to us. So we're not turning away existing clients.
That's
But
great.
yeah, so I just want to, because if I'm a business owner, or if I'm a senior manager at a pet care facility, I'm thinking, well, this has to be all or nothing. And we're saying, no, it doesn't.
No.
It needs to be, even for your client, I think, pet parents deserve the education piece before you cold turkey cut them off, I think.
Right.
And that
Right.
education piece takes time, it takes months, it takes years, and sometimes it takes, unfortunately, it takes, you know, a different generation of pet, you know, where it's like, hey, I grew up with, you know, having dogs on a farm where, you know, they could be out on a lead and never come in the house, never leave that lead.
Right.
Outside. They were safe, they were fine, but would I do that now in my own backyard? The HOA wouldn't allow it if I wanted to, and I'm pretty sure there's some kind of ordinance that would say that's, you know, so we're looking at pet care differently, and as in industry, we have an obligation to educate, not just draw these hard lines and say, well, you're wrong. Well, are you? No, I'm not. We're not the dog whisperers of the industry. We're wanting to provide a very clear option so that the majority of dogs that aren't good with large group play have a place to go.
Yeah. You know what I told my staff when I got home after seeing you two speak, and we kind of were giving a summary to our team about our week and our experience at IBPSA. I just said, the one big takeaway for me is that dogs' lives are just going to get better and better and better as we go. Like, this is going to be so good for dogs because they really deserve. I mean, you think about it, like Bart said it once, like, you know, it was something about your whole life.
Somebody asked, they said, my dog is a big part of my life. And I said, well, to them, you are their whole life.
Yeah.
Like their whole world is you.
Yeah. And so what better
Wow,
than to
that's
just,
that's a strong, relevant statement. Yeah.
it really is. There's a guy on TikTok that I follow. I can't remember his name right now, but he does this thing with his golden called Tuesdays with Teddy. Teddy is the dog's name. And Teddy has like a little dollhouse, like that's all his little, it's a man-made, like, you know, big dollhouse that he sleeps in. And he comes out of his little dollhouse and they go out for a morning walk. And then they go to the coffee shop and he gets a puppuccino. And then they go to the dog park. And then they, you know, they go get ice cream. And it's like, it's a whole day of activity just for Teddy. And it just, it warms my heart every time I see it. I was like,
That is exactly.
This little guy's been in my lap.
Oh, there, look at him.
oh,
Well,
Noodle,
it's
yeah.
we're having thunderstorms and it's like
He's not a
pouring
big
rain.
fan.
So he's just like shaking
Like-
and
Poor guy. Anyway, what were you going to say, Bill?
No, I know that that is really when we go, you know, we go back to maybe Russ for a moment, you know, what our why, if you were my why.
Right.
You take care of the dog in your pet care facility so that that dog can take care of their human. That human takes care of their dog, and that dog then takes care of our pet care staff and our team members. And it's just a very much a symbiotic thing. It's like, yes, it's not, you take one of those elements out and none of it works.
Right.
So that's really what we're kind of getting at, I think, is that as an industry, we're recognizing the value of each of these components better than we ever have. It used to be just about the dog. And then sometimes it's just about the staff. And then it's like, and then it's sometimes, well, no, it's actually just about the human client because without them, they make the decisions for the dog. I'm like, but no, none of that's really accurate. It's about the whole thing. It's
Right.
the whole thing.
And the
And
vets are
that is-
starting to get that too. The vets have been like, for the longest time, I was really surprised at how little vets knew about behavior or even diet.
They're so much more educated now about those things.
Sorry.
It's really impressive.
Yeah, well, and we make a point to reach out to our veterinary partners and we, you know, we visit and, you know, we take donuts because we appreciate them. Like we couldn't do without them either. It's they're part of the circle too. And so, you know, we visit with them, we bring them treats, and then we, if they're open to it, you know, if they are interested in hearing a little bit more about our enrichment or our puppy programs or things like that, then we have information for them. But the purpose of those visits truly is just, we appreciate you.
Well, they're the healthcare side of everyone's care. We're the mental health side of it. I mean, there's the physical health, we're the mental health.
Really?
And yeah, that's how we feel about it. And so it's and by the way, I think it's very relevant to say I like Krispy Kreme's great, but we're not bringing them Krispy Kreme. We are bringing them duck donuts. They
that's a whole nother level of donut.
There's a local place called Sugar Donut.
Local. We do local places and just can't be.
That's exactly, your local joint coming to you with some local grub. It's a good deal. And there's not a door that doesn't open. The guy when we're holding a box of those again. So I don't know if there's other business owners out there listening or other pet care team members. The type of donut is critical. And then
it is.
We have a local coffee shop and I call the vet and I say, call Dazzle, give them everybody's coffee order and I'll pick it up and bring it. So they're specifically ordering, you know, I want a Frappuccino. I don't even know what that is.
One of the vet clinics was like $80 worth of coffee. And we were like, here it all is.
And I'm like, they all got larges.
That $80 pales in comparison to one vet visit. It's something from a mutual client and having that rapport where your client, the client you share, and then each of you as businesses can just come together for the sake of that dog and without any to be caring for that dog, making that dog number one. That's what that dog.
Do you guys have breakfast tacos there? Is that a thing?
Breakfast tacos and breakfast pizza.
Although
breakfast pizza.
Breakfast tacos are like,
you will never go back. Like breakfast pizza.
Oh, it's so
It was
good.
to be
Well,
done.
we
Wow.
tell the people, like, we get specific breakfast taco orders too, not just here's 12 bacon and eggs, you know, like,
Right.
Yeah.
like you want chorizo with avocado and egg, you know.
That's enrichment. It's what each one needs.
That's a
There
really
you
good.
go. There you go.
That's a great point you bring up, because it's like we're doing this individualized care for the dogs, right? What better way to express that to our vet partners than by
Yeah.
individualizing their.
Yeah.
It's a
There.
little more work and it costs a little
Well,
more, but like you
No,
said, it's nothing
That's a
in
great idea.
I mean, the whole
marketing.
that goes into that vet office, like you have the veterinarians and you have the assistants, and you also have the receptionist. I
Mhm.
mean, there's so many people
Oh, and
that,
they're the ones moving the needle a lot of times.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are.
Well,
That-
there's one big
Yeah.
clinic that we have here, and I brought in the $86 worth of coffee. And usually you just drop it off at the front desk, and the vet, like, I was talking to the person at the front, and the vet popped his head out and he's like,
He
"Hey
just
Bart,
opened the door and
why
was
don't you
like,
come back and say hi to everybody?"
That's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
I went in the back room and everybody was, you
yeah,
know, they're
5 or
like,
6 vets like, ooh, coffee. Thank you so
"Oh,"
much.
and
That's
the
fantastic.
techs were happy, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Dog boys, Bart,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
thank
good
you."
all around. And
Yeah.
then we
Good icebreaker.
also, you what?
it's a good icebreaker. You can
Yes.
get
Oh,
in
yeah.
the store and who
Yeah.
doesn't like coffee?
Yeah, and then
Coffee.
we provide just like a little free stack of puppy packets, like for them to give out to new puppy owners about what they need to be thinking about and what kind of supplies they
The
need,
stages of
important
socialization
and
and
positive
Yeah.
reinforcement
puppy
training
development
is, and
and-
all those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, definitely.
so
Yeah.
but we've got to be at an hour.
I think we've
We've-
probably taken
we've-
up enough of your
See what
time.
I
I
mean?
could go on about
Probably.
how's it like raising a kid and running a business together. I mean, we could just like,
Bart and I are going to
another
have to
episode.
follow up regarding diesel trucks. Is that what?
Trucks.
That's my takeaway.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, am I going to pull a mobile home, or am I going to drive a mobile home? Do I need a,
You could pull your house.
that's right.
right? Well,
And
see,
get a tiny home.
I've got a ranch truck I've got a 95 GMC it only has 100,000 miles on it. It's
Oh
older
my.
than most of my employees. And it still runs great. I redid the interior. Like, I don't really need a new truck, but
Well, you know.
It is
who
time.
doesn't?
Neither did you.
Yeah, I didn't need a new truck either.
I don't think I could sell it. Like, I don't know if I could part.
I don't need to haul 20,000 pounds on a routine basis, but I can.
I can pull the house down the road. So I've got like 3 questions that I ask.
It's time for the
all of
speed
our-
round.
Our dog people. This is why it's called Dog Ranch TV.
Mhm.
They're really easy questions. Earlier I was talking about my first memory of play and joy and fun was with my dog Nikki. What was y'all's like first memory of dog, or where you felt like, you know, wow, dogs are something special? Or
Mhm. My first memory was with our dog Eddie, who is actually, and so this is not a memory from a long time ago.
And he's still here.
Yeah, Eddie is 16, so he's been around for a while. He's a miniature dachshund, and he is 16 years
Aw.
old. And when he was a puppy, we rescued him from it was a bad situation. It was just horrible, but he's alive and thriving still against the odds. And when he was a puppy, he was probably 1 year old. And I remember my parents were over at my apartment, and there was a toy that he was trying to get. And my dad reached behind the furniture and got the toy for him. And Eddie walked over to my dad and just licked his hand just to say thank you. And I just remember thinking, this is this simple little thing, with just this toy with this dog who has been through so much trauma and neglect. And now he's got this safe place. He's got his little toy and he's safe now. And it's just something that's always stuck with me. These dogs, they just want love, and they just want you as their parent.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
something that's just always stuck with me. That's the first truly impactful memory that I have with one of
Yeah.
our pets.
yeah.
Mhm.
Top that.
Yeah.
Top that, Bill.
Top that, Bill.
Well, hey, I bought Eddie for her before I deployed.
Aw.
So there you go.
Aw. You did
So
top
Eddie's been
that.
kicking it since 2006. Yeah, and we are actually not sure exactly how old he is. He also threw up on her on the way home from the little trailer we picked him up
did.
at.
Perfect.
Oh,
Which we didn't
buddy.
know that heaving thing the dog does is not hiccups. Now we know that. Yes.
Yeah,
That's a sign to go outside.
that's fun.
Yes. So we were pretty, but I grew up on a little like hobby farm of my dad's, and we had dogs growing up. My first dog's name was Puppy, and it's one of my first memories. And I think I named it Puppy because as a 4-year-old, that's kind of where the vocabulary stopped. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had, and so we had Puppy was a mix, and then we had a Beagle and a Basset Hound later when I was like high school, middle school, high school. And so animals have always been a big part of my life. And then as a high schooler, I ended up with a donkey named Lightning, and a
nice.
miniature donkey. Yeah. And we had goats and chickens and a rooster named Nelson,
cool.
and Willie Nelson, because we got to honor Willie Nelson.
Right.
You gotta honor Willie.
That party was his
give him a
daughter.
little, yeah. So for me, it was just animals in general, but then dogs being what they are. I mean, you fast forward, and then this situation with Rust, it just kind of brought it full circle for me. And I realized pretty quickly, I'm like, this is what I'm called to do. And Amy felt very similar. And it's like, I knew I wanted to be into business for myself from a pretty young age, but certainly didn't think it would be pet care.
Right.
Yeah.
Frankly, this wasn't an industry to the degree that it is now. Like, just like you guys started, you guys are the vanguard of bringing this out into the world, I mean, truly, and paving a way for progress that we're seeing now. And so I just, it's very humbling to think about how my dogs grew up as a kid to now what we're doing today, the standard of care today. And it's fantastic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's really, really warms my heart. It makes me so excited for dogs.
Yeah, my dog used to follow me like back in the day. I would ride my bike to my friend's house, and he would run behind the bike, and I'd drop my bike at the gate, and he would lay down next to my bike, and I'd come out 2 hours later, and he would be like, "Are we leaving?" And
he's right there.
He was just like my buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, second question. How many dogs have you had lifetime?
Oh God.
Yours would be what we have together.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, 8.
Yeah.
Missy, Eddie,
We're right
Joe.
around 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8.
Yeah, together. Yeah.
Together.
Do you want to tell them what you told your mom after? Because her mom wouldn't let her have a dog.
My mom would not let me have a dog as a child.
Oh, wow.
What's
I
her
told
name?
her, I said, I was like, you did. I said, this is an overreaction to a repressed childhood. You did this. It's like, stop, it is not.
I hope you're happy.
Yeah, like, see? Yeah. So I think we've had about 8 together.
Yeah, and 3 of them are with us now.
Yeah, we have
so.
3 right now, Jojo,
Yeah.
Eddie, and Macy.
And during that time, Eddie's been this stalwart. What do you say?
Yeah, Eddie's
always
seen it
been.
all. Eddie was with us before we were married. So
They're the bookends. Dogs are bookends in your life.
I mean, Eddie's lived in all the apartments, the houses. He's seen the teaching, the commercial real estate, social pet, no human child. Now we have a human child, Cooper, he's seen it all. So
Yeah.
anytime we get a new dog or anything, I can just tell he's again,
Again, come
"Am I
on.
not enough for you?"
Don't you?
Does Cooper have a favorite?
I think Cooper's favorite is probably, it's either Macy or Jojo.
Yeah.
He likes Macy because Macy's kind of his size because he's 6. And so, he's a little bit bigger than her now. She's 35, 40 pounds. And so, he's 42 pounds. So they're kind of around the same size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The perfect size
Not for
for a
long.
6-year-old.
Okay,
Aw.
so with dogs come
Yeah.
aches and pains.
And accidents and
what-
oopsies.
So this is a hard question to explain or ask. What's the biggest oh no moment, or the biggest crazy thing that's happened for us. We came home from Christmas services and our dog had eaten like $100
Beef tenderloin.
beef tenderloin.
Oh,
And then we were,
She ate Christmas dinner while we were at church.
yeah, so we had
wow.
chicken breast.
So,
So like
Send her to meet Jesus. No.
All right. She
Yeah.
was about to meet Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
But like we laugh about it now, and I think
Or
about
it
her.
could be a veterinary situation that turned, that
We have-
just
yeah.
went awry or
So
It could be a thing.
probably for, we've had moments with dogs, you come home and they've destroyed like,
Mhm.
thing, and there's been fluff everywhere and all that. Probably the
funny.
one that sticks out the most to me is Eddie. Several years ago, he and I were in the kitchen in our old house and we're just standing there talking and we hear like the sound of drinking. And I'm like, that sounds like Eddie. Like, what is he doing? And we walked into the living room and Bill had a glass of whiskey on the end table. And
Uh-oh.
Eddie, you know how little dogs are, that he like climbed up and he drank all of the whiskey out of the glass. And
So
there
it was kind of like a honey infused.
honey
Yeah.
infused. And so, I mean, he drank the whole thing and there were a few shots worth of whiskey in there.
Oh my gosh.
So we're like, oh my God. And at this point, like he has eaten plenty of things. And, I mean, he's eaten chocolate and he's like, I don't know. I'm sure that sounds
No,
bad.
it happens. It
He
does.
eats all the things and he's been fine.
Mhm.
So he drank all this whiskey. And so then he proceeds to like, he's drunk. And so he's like, he's this little dog and he's like stumbling around and like bumping into things.
Buddy.
He's like, play some country music. Where are the women?
Yeah, he's like running around. He's really hyper, like, yay. And then he's stumbling and like bumping into things. And then he like throws up everywhere. And it was like,
No.
Eventually crashes. And all of this happened because I guess because he's so small, it all happened like in 30 minutes.
yeah, it all happened like very fast. And so we like
Quickly
stayed up to
processed.
okay. But it was like, I mean, this poor little dog like got drunk and like got really excited and then kind of crashed. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like, but that was probably that was scary because he's tiny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
it's a great story now, and it's funny
Yeah.
now.
But
I
at the
mean,
time you were probably not like, oh, this
Oh.
is hilarious.
okay, is this gonna be the thing that does it? But no,
Right.
he threw it up and then he was, he passed out and then he woke up and he was a little groggy, but he was okay.
Eddie.
Maybe-
He has seen a lot in his
He's
short
like, can we go to
time.
Bojangles for breakfast?
I know. He's like, I need some fried chicken and bow rounds right now.
Yeah.
please."
That's right. That's right. Oh, that's awesome.
Well, that wraps it up.
Yeah.
Then. That's a good one.
Oh, that was fantastic.
That was fun.
Thank you guys so much for your time today. We really learned so much and we loved getting to talk with you. And
Yeah.
for those of you who are listening or watching and you want to find out more about this wonderful power couple in the pet care industry, you can go to socialpethotel.com and we're going to have all the links to all your social feeds and everything in the show notes. So there'll be plenty of ways for people to get in touch with you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. We
Yeah,
love it.
thank you all for inviting us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We
problem.
loved it.